Alright. I think that time it worked. Okay. Hopefully we're going to try that again. And hopefully this time it doesn't break on us. So, hello again, everybody. Let me make sure. Yep, it is rolling and everything's going on. My understanding is that most of our European friends who'll be watching this probably aren't going to be, because it's about to be New Year's for you guys in 20 minutes. So, Happy New Year's to you guys, and I hope I'll catch you on the record tomorrow. With that said, though, I think I just want to get rolling right into it because it's taken way too long already. So the few things I want to talk about this week are, let's see, I want to talk about Fire TV sticks. I want to talk about, let's see, I have a nice thing here. Fire TV sticks, piracy, DVR in the United States, the official code name for Kodi 17, and upcoming changes in how Kodi handles input, which is, how you make something like this work. Boy, how do I get started on all this? I guess to get rolling, let's start talking about DVR in the US. And for that, we're going to flip over to, let's just flip over straight to Kodi. Here we have a standard Kodi screen, which in the US usually has all of these things, but almost never has this spot right here. And the reason for that is because in the US it's a real hassle to get that going. And in the past, I've suggested that people go ahead and turn on HD Home Run. I'm going to turn the volume down so I don't accidentally, or I'll mute it. Oh, that didn't work. I'm going to turn the volume down. Okay, yeah, there we go. So in the past, what I've suggested people do is go ahead and launch HD Home Run and get your channels that way. And that works pretty well. But it doesn't work well enough, in my opinion. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's pretty cool. And there's some stuff going on that's going to be really great. But for the moment, it's not all the way there. So, and there's a cool DVR function now. If you've become one of the backers, Kickstart backers, whatever the word is. Those of you watching, feel free to tell me exactly what you call a person who's a Kickstarter backer. I guess probably just a backer, right? Anyway, it works well enough, but it's still in the proving ground stages. So what's really cool is that there's a developer out there whose name let's see if I can pull his name up real quick, because I don't want to not give this guy credit, because it's a pretty cool thing what he did. Okay, I'm not going to be able to pronounce it. It's CSI Media, I guess probably is how it's pronounced. And what he did was he took the cool PVR stuff that HD Home Run is working on, grabbed as much of it as he could from their API, and turned it into an official Kodi PVR system. So in order to get that working, if you've already got if you've already got an HD Home Run, one of the 3 modern ones where all this works, all you have to do to get it working is go to add-ons, my add-ons, and PVR clients. And now I've already done this, but what you do is you go to PVR HD Home Run client and you enable it by entering it, and this usually says disabled, but you would enable. And that's pretty much it. Then it just all starts working. You don't have to go through any crazy process of filling in XML files or any of that stuff. It all just does what it's supposed to do. My suggestion is, if you haven't already, and if there's still a way to do it, try to get into the backer program for HD Home Run, because I think it gives you an awful lot more. It fills in the preview guide for you quite a lot more, as we'll see in a second. But so you enable that, then you go to TV, and I've of course also done this, but you just click enable. This is usually untoggled. You toggle it on. That's it. That's the whole process. Then once you've done that, this new TV tab shows up, and you can go to guide, and boom, the whole thing's filled in. And here's what's really crazy: if you have a cable provider of some kind who's relatively cool, The only things that they're going to hide or disable from Kodi are usually like HBO or those premium channels. So all the rest of the channels just work. So you could go to, well, let's skip past this to the HD stuff. So you can go to any of these HD channels and start watching right away. You can also go to, let's see, Pitbull's New Year's Revolution. The one thing you can't do, and this is unfortunate, you can't record at the moment because the HD Home Run backend doesn't allow recording through the API. But almost everything else you can do. And you can switch to that channel, and it'll just, it'll switch to that channel. Oops. Oh, it looks like we got a little bit of beta. Oh, darn. Well, hang on. So we have a little bit of a beta problem there. Something happened. I think because you're not allowed to record through the API, if you try hitting record, sometimes Kodi will go a little bit crazy. But that's early versions of the software. That's just how it's going to work. Nonetheless, it's still pretty cool. Here, let me pop that back on. It's still pretty cool, and you can do a lot of really nifty stuff. So there's the channel guide again, and the channels, I mean, with cable, it's incredible how many channels I get that aren't blocked out or blacked out. With that said, I'm not gonna. I think I actually have the DVR system set up at the moment where you can go into the HD Home Run add-on and set up channels that way. But I'm not sure how much. I don't know. It's just part of the. I don't know. Sorry, I'm thinking aloud in my head at the moment. I don't know how much the Silicon Dust guys want me to show that off, because at the moment it still is you can tell it's very beta, and they're obviously still working on it. So I think for now I'll avoid really giving an in-depth rundown of what that looks like. It's pretty cool, and it's extraordinarily different than using something like this program guide. Totally different experience, and really a very neat one. But I don't know. Maybe we'll talk about that another day. But there we are. So now, if you're hooked up to HD Home Run, now you have a full channel guide, and everything works in the U.S. without needing to do any of that stuff that you always had to do in the past. I'll tell you, it's pretty cool. So that's the first thing I wanted to talk about. I don't know. I already have a question. Hey Nate, how can we add images, posters to STRM files for display on the on-screen display? Thanks. Well, normally what you do, Jamar, is you just name the file the same as as whatever video file you have, except then you make it a JPEG at the end. And a lot of times Kodi will pick that up. But honestly, I've never had to do that myself, so I don't actually know the answer to your question. All right, so sorry, can't help you very much there, Jamar. So with that said, let's cut away from Kodi for a second and talk about some other things. In particular, this came out a couple days ago. Somebody by the name of Andy, writing for Tor and Frank, wrote, did pirates clean out the Amazon Fire TV stock in the UK? And it's brought up a point that I kind of want to talk about. For some reason, it seems like the people pushing Kodi for piracy have really latched onto the Amazon Fire TV stick as like the ultimate piracy device. And basically what I'm going to do right now is argue against that point for a couple reasons. The number one thing is I think the argument is that the Fire TV stick is really simple. And once Kodi's installed on it, then there's nothing else you have to do. And to some extent that's true, but to another and far larger extent, that's totally false. For a couple reasons. First of all, when you install Kodi on the Amazon Fire TV stick, you're selling a bill of goods that's not really there. It's not a set it and forget it sort of situation, because Amazon pushes their own updates to that stick, which it does easily break the side-loaded add-ons that you install. excuse me, the sideloaded applications you install, which means when you install Kodi for that stick, I mean, who knows what's going to happen to it the next day or next few days. I think, and I'll stand by this, I think the Kodi TV stick is a really cool device. I've got several of them, and I think they work really well. But if it's a device you're buying for a relative and you want to just leave it at their house and let them use it to their heart's content, I don't think it's a great device for that, because I think that the potential for breakage on that stick is pretty high. You don't control the underlying OS, and we don't have any way from our end to update Kodi to fix any underlying OS problems. It's very different than, for example, installing Kodi on a Nexus player or something like that, where you have access to the Google Play Store. Yeah, okay. We'll get into that in a second, Chief Kodi. We have another comment. You don't have access to a Google Play Store, which means we can't push an update to fix the problem introduced by an underlying OS change. So in my opinion, you shouldn't. It's not even for pirates, it's frankly not a great version to use. If you're going to use something that you want to set it and forget it situation, like if you're some stupid eBay seller doing a horrible job of destroying our name, the Amazon Fire TV Stick is not the device you want to use. The device you want to use is something like the Raspberry Pi. It costs the same amount. You can get a cheapo little enclosure for it that does the same thing. And then that's literally a set it forget it kind of thing, because it's usually have OpenELEC installed on it, or OSMC or whatever, where we or somebody that actually cares about Kodi controls the underlying operating system. So when an update comes, and it always will, you have some sort of control over how it's going to affect Kodi. That's what you want. You want something. The assumption I have is that these people are not really using it for anything other than Kodi. If you are, then maybe I guess there's no good option, or the option is something that uses Android TV that has access to Google Play Store. But for the people who want to use it just for whatever, for Kodi reasons, and for your family members, I'm telling you, this is not a great device for you. Other comments, the Chief Kodi, I'm not really sure who you are, but I'm just going to go ahead and accept that. I don't really like the Amazon Fire Sticks just for the reasons of its low RAM and storage. That's another pretty good point. I don't think low RAM is a big issue these days, honestly. But I do think that limited storage that you don't have any control over is a problem, because Kodi uses a lot of storage just for caching files and keeping images stored somewhere. And as that cache goes on, it takes up more and more space on your hard drive. And once again, the Amazon Fire TV Stick is not something where you can upgrade that or change it out or get a little, micro SD card and plug it in and get more storage. Once you fill up that card, then you're out of luck. So I agree. There are so many reasons why the Amazon Fire TV Stick is a nifty device for people who are good at keeping up with these things and have an ability to actually perform maintenance. But for everybody else, man, I don't know why you'd bother with it. There are better devices out there in all sorts of different categories, from wanting to use Kodi only, or wanting to use Kodi along with all kinds of Android stuff. The Amazon Fire TV Stick is not the way to go. With that said, though, I don't know. So I covered this a little bit, but Chief wants to know, what would you recommend buying instead of the Fire TV Sticks? And I kind of covered this, but I'll go into it a little bit more depth. I don't want to give any official recommendations. I've done that in the past. I've kind of gone on what good Christmas gifts are and stuff. But as always, what's good for you could vary depending on what you need to do. There are better devices in almost every category. Even if you absolutely need Amazon Prime, you should get the Amazon Fire set-top box, the Amazon Fire 2 or whatever, because it's dramatically better. If you only need Kodi, which is sort of what I think a lot of these pirate people out there are doing, then you'd be far better off if you only need Kodi and you want it on a super cheap device. You'd be far better off just putting a version of OpenELEC on an SD card, spamming that SD card with whatever setup you want to set up with, and then put those on various Raspberry Pi devices. It's not quite as pretty unless you get an El Cheapo case, which you can do for so little money. But it has the benefit of being expandable and having a version of Kodi that absolutely works. And beyond that, if you're mostly just interested in the Amazon ecosystem, then there are obvious choices out there. There's the WeTech in Europe. There's, all of our sponsors, frankly, fit in this category because this is what they do. There's the NVIDIA Shield in the US. Minix makes good stuff, and Minix makes cool stuff that you can flip back and forth. It works on Android and also works on OpenELEC. So, you can do whatever you want with those devices. I've said it before and I'll say it again. At this point, it seems pretty clear that they're trying to get rid of inventory, and so the Nexus player tends to be pretty cheap. If you can find one, then that's also an awesome way to go because it's cheap like the Fire TV stick. But it has the ability to upgrade Kodi very simply. And you don't have any of the weird Wi-Fi problems. Well, at least I don't. I have two of them, and the Wi-Fi problem just doesn't exist. So that's my thought on this whole Amazon Fire TV stick thing. It's unfortunate. It's so frustrating as a Kodi dev that I don't even know where to begin. The problem with piracy vendors is that they're, especially piracy vendors giving out Amazon Fire TV sticks, is that they're giving out a subpar, horrible performance for Kodi on just about every level. There's already they're giving out add-ons that constantly break, and we hear about all the time. They're giving out hardware that only works if you're somewhat knowledgeable enough to install Kodi yourself or fix Kodi when the hardware inevitably upgrades. I don't know. They're doing all kinds of. It's just a subpar experience, and I don't like that. It's so frustrating. RD, yeah, hey RD, what's up, man? Good to see you. Happy New Year to you too. Hey, and I don't remember if I said it in this stream, but Happy New Year to everybody. This is I was planning on doing this regardless, but I've missed the last 2 weeks. 2 weeks ago was my birthday, then last week was Christmas, and today is New Year's, and man, I'm so frustrated that we haven't been able to get a podcast out that I just figured, what the heck, I'll do a quick one, and then I'll get to New Year's, good times. So, Dan, I'll answer your question in a minute. I want to talk about some other stuff real quick first. And in fact, actually, everyone who's watching, feel free to ask questions, and I'll try to get to as many of them as I can here in a minute. But first, I want to flip over to something that I think is really neat. So this year, literally today, we just announced the new Kodi version 17 code name. And for those of you who don't know what that means, a code name is the name we give each version of the software. Mostly, frankly, it's for development purposes, and so we can quickly reference something without having to remember what number it is. Like this Kodi 16 is Jarvis, and before that it was Gotham, and before that it was whatever it was. We had a pretty funny April Fool's Day joke a while back that we were going to name it somebody in the comments, please remind me. What's his name? Hasselhoff. H was going to be Hasselhoff, which I'm still a little sad we didn't do because Hasselhoff is a great name. But this year, the name we went with was Krypton, which is a cool name. Some people think that it might be a harbinger of terrible news because Krypton does explode, blah, 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 blah. But the reason we went with it wasn't because we decided to pick it ourselves. It was because Ronnie, which, God, give credit to him because this seems like a hell of a process, went through every single suggestion across I don't know, across all kinds of threads and everywhere, and counted up every suggestion. In the top 10, well, you can see right here, were Krypton, Kraken, Kenobi, Kronos, Kryptonite, Karma, just the letter K for some reason, King, Kratos, and Kaleidoscope. And the number one was overwhelming, 98 to 63. And so internally, a lot of times what we'll do is we'll take kind of that top 10 list and talk about which one we all like the most and vote on that one. But this time, almost immediately, someone said, you know what? Why don't we just stick with Krypton? And there were, let's just stick with Krypton. There's, I mean, the person even said he had another vote that he kind of preferred, but so many people seem to like Krypton that there's no reason not to just go with what the community suggested. And so we did. It was the very first time we've ever just gone with the number one community vote. And it was cool. I hope we do this more often because I really like it. I like it when the community steps up and we just say, you know what, the community knows what they want, let's just give it to them. So Krypton it is. And I should note, this is not the official logo. This is just an image Ronnie found somewhere. I don't know where he found it. Or maybe he made it or whatever. But it's not the official logo for Kodi 17. We've got our art guys working on that. And that's some cool stuff coming up there too. So that's the official code name. And the third thing, or the fourth thing, sorry, I wanted to talk about was at least one of the things coming in for Kodi 17. Which is the new way we're going to control input. When Gare Bear first came up with Retro Player, he realized early on that Kodi is this entirely new beast. There are emulators out there that have to deal with a variety of controllers, and if you ever look into that controller code or into the user interface associated with those controllers, you'll note almost immediately that it's horrible. It's incredibly difficult to understand what you're doing. I don't know, the whole process is so confusing. So what we're doing is we've split out controller input from RetroPlayer itself because we need to get controller input fixed first, and we need to make it in a way where it totally makes sense for everybody. And so what we're going to do is, what happens is you install Alpha 1 or Alpha 2 or whenever we merge the controller input BR. You install it and you plug in your controller. And then one of two things happens. Either A, you get a little pop-up saying, we've noticed you installed a new controller that we don't recognize. Can you please go through the process of clicking all the appropriate buttons? Click whatever button best fits this green button here. Or press whatever button best fits this here. Or press up on your D-pad or whatever. We go through that process if it's a new controller. If it's not a new controller, and this is where it gets really cool, we're going to hopefully have a means of letting users go through this process where they upload their profile and the way they think the controller best fits up with the software. And then they'll be able to upload it if they want to, and then we'll take the most popular setup and just make it the default install. So you'll plug it in, and at the first, it'll just automatically know what kind of controller you have, and it'll set it up so that it's set up the right way immediately. You'll still be able to change it if you want. Like if you're, I don't know, if you're a down when you press up kind of guy, inverted or whatever, maybe you can change it so that it inverts for you or whatever. That's up to you. For now, it should just work, which is really. It's going to be really cool, we think. Or we hope. I don't know. We'll find out. And then, so first we'll have input set up like that. And then once RetroPlayer comes in theory, all of these same things will happen. What will happen is you'll try to launch, let's say, a Nintendo 64 game or an NES game. And initially, for the first few users or first 100 users or whatever, it'll ask you to input your buttons that you think fit most appropriately with that system. Like, for example, the SNES buttons are very different than the Xbox 360 buttons in terms of lettering. Like, I think it's like BAXY or something. Sorry, BAXY instead of XAYB. So it's a little bit of a different thing. So what we do is we'll let users upload what they think is an appropriate combination for Super Nintendo running on an Xbox 360 controller. And ultimately we'll have a set of key maps that will just come default. It'll just automatically work for that system in the way that the majority of people think works the best. And everything will just sort of be automated. And it'll all just work the second you plug in your controller, unless you have a really weird controller. And man, I'll tell you, we're just really excited about it. We're super pumped about how theoretically easy this is going to be. That said, this is still something that you have to have installed on your own from the forum to get working. So once it opens to broad, sort of a more broad user base, once it hits Alpha 1 or Alpha 2 or whenever it gets in, we'll find out just how easy it is. I'm expecting there to be some major grumbling and big problems to start out with, because that's just how it is with new features. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But for now, I'm very excited about it. So with that said, let's flip it over to questions and see what people want to know about. First off, Happy New Year's once again, everybody. Dan D says, I read where the FCC has mandated minimum internet speeds go from 4 megabytes to 25. Have you heard about this, and when does this take effect? I don't know. I haven't heard about this, and I don't think they mandated what you said, actually, Dan. I think what they've mandated is that you can only advertise broadband if it's at 25 megabits a second, which is a different thing. Who's like AT&T provides DSL, and up until fairly recently, maybe it's already passed, DSL was considered broadband because it was 4 megabits or higher. I think it went up to 15 or something. Making it so it has to be 25, which is, basically required for 2 or 3 HD video streams, means that DSL can still be sold, but it can't advertise itself as broadband. And what that means is it changes the number of companies offering broadband in an area, which in turn means that, for example, I live in Wichita, Kansas. We'll go from having 2 broadband providers, AT&T and Cox, to only having 1, which means we live in a monopoly area, which in turn means that regulation can come in that Cox maybe won't like, or Comcast, or anybody else. I don't know what's going to happen. Sometimes it seems like the FCC has teeth and is not afraid of fighting with these broadband providers, and sometimes it doesn't. We'll see what happens. Are you guys working on making, this is from Jamar, making Kodi more compatible with Blu-ray menus? It works for some and not all. I'll tell you what, Jamar, there's a dirty little secret in the world of Kodi, and frankly, every open source software ever. What we are is actually, to some extent, an amalgamation of other open source projects. So, for example, Kodi is FFmpeg, and Samba, and I'm just trying to think of the really big famous ones that people might have heard of. I forget what else. Blu-ray is another one. And those other projects are actually the ones that are working on these things. A lot of times there's sort of intermingling. Like, a lot of the guys who work on video-related stuff also help with these other projects. So I know that there are a couple guys working on Blu-ray specifically from Kodi, specifically to get these things in. But in order to make it more compatible with the menus, my understanding is that menus come in one of 2 different forms. There's a Java form, and then there's something else, and we only have supported one of them. I do think that there are beta versions of the other one being supported, but I don't know. It's been such a long time since I followed that I'm not really sure. But what you should do is try to Google lib Blu-ray and see if you can figure it out, because there's a lot of interesting stuff going down that road. I highly recommend not posting in any of those threads. A lot of people think that Kodi developers are mean, angry people, but you have no idea. The developers working on those sort of underlying projects have absolutely no time for regular users. It's because they're not user-faced. And so when a person who doesn't know what they're talking about tries to talk to them, oh man, the shit hits the fan real fast. So read, don't write, if you want to look into that stuff. Teddy Thomas, in the same idea, K could have been Kardashian. It would never have been Kardashian. It might have been Kardashian on April 1st. At no other time. Though that would have been a pretty good April 1st joke. If we hadn't already done it with what's his face? Okay, anyway. So I think that just about covers it, guys. What have we done? We've talked about pirates and the Fire TV stick, the official Kodi code name, TV in the U.S. and input. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I was looking at something else on here. And just in case you were curious, this is Kodi 16 Beta 4. Yeah, this is Kodi 16 Beta 4, which means that what you're looking at is what we've got. And there's some cool things in here. I've talked about them before, but I think one of the things that I think ultimately is going to be one of the most important new features of Kodi is this events thing. I haven't done anything with Kodi this time around, but Kodi successfully started this cool little event. At some point, I should do a scan in mid-show just so you can see what that looks like. Teddy Thomas, is it the plan idea for the future to have Kodi being natively integrated into TV sets? We don't have any plans along those lines, Teddy, but we kind of feel like we don't need to. It sounds like as time goes on, more and more TV companies are going to start integrating Android TV into their TV sets and getting rid of the web TV stuff. When that happens, we'll all essentially already be included in those systems because Kodi is part of Google Play, and sometimes is a featured app. Sometimes it isn't. I don't know. It's a little confusing, but there's not a lot that's Android TV specific. So the fact that Kodi is really works out for us. But once they start integrating Android TV into their TV sets, and I know Philips is doing it, Sony's already done it for like 2 years now. As more companies start doing that, Kodi will just be integrated in, and we're working to make sure that Kodi works as well as it can on those TV sets, because those TV sets tend to have a little bit of a weaker chip than the set-top boxes, to save costs. But yeah, as Android TV goes into those systems, Kodi will as well. So I think that just about covers it. We're at 35 minutes, so I guess Happy New Year's, guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next week.